listen, this is what you'd be earning monthly, blah, 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 blah. But at this current point in time, it can't happen. There's no way that you could be a pro wrestler and just be a professional wrestler. In fact, sometimes I actually sit and think, like in South Africa, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people, can we really call ourselves professional wrestlers? The word professional would mean and indicate that this is all we do for a living. It's our profession, what we do to generate an income. So I don't think that we are professional wrestlers in South Africa. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack off for that. But if you want to call it what it is, I would say we're all generally just workers. We're entertainers at some point, but we're not professional with it. There's no way that this can be a profession now.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the second episode of the previously known podcast known as BaardBek Wrestling Pod. As you can see, we've changed the name to BaardBek and Palazzio.
Just had to.
We had to have the legend be part of this whole thing. But let's start off with Happy Valentine's Day, bro.
No, I don't celebrate Valentine's.
We don't celebrate it. Neither do I. My wife knows I love her. And I don't need to give companies
my wife is
money.
big on these kind of days, so you can imagine the arguments.
Okay, fortunately, my wife is not big on any of these days. But yeah, for those of you who are doing anything for Valentine's Day, just remember how much you spend today is what you're going to have to keep on spending to keep them happy and more. But we're not here to talk about Valentine's Day. We're talking about something more hard-hitting than love, but we've got passion. So we're going to continue talking today with Johnny about the South African wrestling industry.
Both of us need to discuss it because you also like you're seeing it from a different angle now.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely put some stuff in there.
Get to see it from an aged angle and then from a new kind of point of view.
It is so much different. That's all I can say so far, but it's much, much different than what I expected. But it's more fun than I expected, weirdly enough. So, but we're going to talk more about some of the stuff. So I think especially younger wrestlers, people out there watching podcasts of overseas guys and
wanting
stuff.
to get part of the business.
Part of the business. Last time we spoke a lot about how South African wrestling look in South Africa now. How does training and development look? So we want to continue that storyline or quest line, whatever you want to call it, and keep talking about South African context. So if we can start off with, first one is, how important to Coach Johnny said, important is South African culture in shaping a wrestler's character?
In what way? Like what?
His character, his wrestling character. How do you see the South African culture? Is it important?
It's difficult because, all the guys that join for a reason, or they want to join for a reason. So they turn on the television and then they see American wrestling and they see guys doing this on the big stage. And then, they become a hero to you. I mean, I'm the first person to say it, like I started because of Bret Hart. And when that whole Montreal Screwjob thing, when that happened, I just stopped watching wrestling completely. If the youngsters that join and they see these guys, sometimes as a coach, you need to realign them. So you got to, like arguments that you see the guys that we've got now, the youngsters at that level where they're just breaking in and they've just passed their training phase and, they're almost getting into the ring. So those are the guys that I sit and I chat a lot to because they like, oh, I want to be like Triple H or I want to be like the Undertaker. And I've got to be like, no, that's not going to work. First of all, we need to be unique. Second of all, there's no point on having an American kind of style gimmick when you are nowhere near America and you're in South Africa. It's all about being relatable. So you got to be relatable. It doesn't make sense for you to come out and, be a baseball player in South Africa. Who watches baseball really, let's be honest, in South Africa? If you're a cricket player, it's a different story. Same thing if you make it big in South Africa as a cricket player gimmick and you go over to America, they're going to be like, what the hell? Although cricket is picking up there now. But I digress. You got to be relatable. It's horses for courses. So the biggest thing when it comes to training is, even if the guy, he's broken through and he's about to get in the ring, they need to understand where they are. They need to understand that you are in South Africa. You will be doing shows on the South African circuit. And you need to be relatable. People got to understand. You can't sit and explain your gimmick to someone in the match. That needs to happen naturally. They got to be like, I get it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. If we think back, years ago, when just take it to WWE, it was all these funny characters, Mantar, Duke the Dumpster Grossy.
Didn't they have like a chicken at one point?
Yeah, they had a chicken, a hog farmer.
And then there was a chicken.
Yeah.
Hey, whoa, those hog farmers were legit. Henry or Godwin.
Phineas Godwin.
Those boys were legit.
Interesting enough, I watched a video the other day where Henry broke his neck in a match with the Road Warriors.
But they were big boys.
Yeah, they were never supposed to take, I don't know what to call that finish of the...
Yeah, they were big boys.
They were big. I enjoyed the Hog Brothers.
I used to love the Hog ones.
Like Duke the Dumpster, Drosy and Atom Bomb, in that era it worked. And then they went to the Attitude era, and then you became more like, your name is who you are. There we got the John Cena's, Triple H and all those stuff. But what I'm hearing from you is something about staying true to yourself. Don't try to almost become a character who is not natural to you. Now, there's my favorite guy in WWE at the moment is Obafemi.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just the African warrior. And I think that's why his character transcends, because that's who he is. It's believable.
It's more natural. That's like you can see, like in our locker room at the moment, we got all the Zulu boys coming through, and then they want to be like, I said, no. The Zulus are all about, they're warriors, they're fighters. It's an amazing gimmick. I just think it's amazing. There we go.
And so I take it you have Italian heritage in you.
Very much. My family is from Italy. They were... my grandfather and them are all from Italy, but like real hardcore Italians. I've never really been Italian, whatever the case is. It's just like when I started my gimmick, I wanted to have some kind of... I wanted to be like a bad guy, piratey kind of gimmick. Not like a pirate, like on the boats, but like just like an outlaw kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Sean was like, nah, it's not going to work. Go back to the drawing board. And I had to go back a few times. And then he's like, well, what are you? I'm like, well, my family's Italian, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, think of an Italian name. I was like, it just came. It took me a while. It took me about a month and a half before I even hit the ring to come up with Johnny Palazzio. So it was JP Johnny Palazzio. So I tried to take it from that.
Yeah. Off the cuff question. We passed the major phase of kayfabe. I've watched the interview of the MJF this week.
Yeah, I saw clips of that.
Chris Van Vliet. It was good how he kept kayfabe and his character, but still talking good stuff. Moving past that, in the old days, the Undertaker walked around in the airport almost looking like Undertaker. How do a wrestler, and is it always possible for a wrestler to separate his character, who is in the ring, from who is outside of the ring?
Well, there has to be, but I think the really good characters are the guys that the separation is less. So if you are like an Undertaker or a Mankind, and then you got to jump back into being a normal person, that gap, that change is massive. And sometimes the guys lose these gimmicks because they don't believe in it themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I've seen it happen a million times here in the South African circuit. And Johnny Palazzio, when he started, he was me. Just when I had too many drinks, I was very arrogant. I was like the ladies' man. I was very, very arrogant. I was just like, hey, you don't tell me anything. I'm the guy telling you what's going to happen. And that's how it was when I used to. I don't drink anymore, but I haven't drank for like 8 years, if we can clean. But that character used to come out every single time. And I used to sit and think, like, who's Johnny? What is this character going to be? Because I wanted to be the baby face. And Sean was like, there's no way you're going to be a baby face. You're going to be a villain. So I was like, how am I going to be this villain? And then I actually thought about, that's how I'm going to be. I'm going to come out, I'm going to have a smirk on my face. You know, it's going to be arrogance, knowing that he's a good wrestler. And, you know, he used that to get to people. Like, they wanted him to get beat, and he would just somehow. I mean, I had the cruiserweight title for like 4.5 years, and I won 2 matches in that 4.5 years. So if that tells you anything about being a villain.
So what I'm hearing basically is, if I just think of trying to wrestle and becoming a wrestler, and that is, it's actually safer, not safer, but it's
Easier.
an option to go
It's
build
easier.
your character from where you actually are,
Well, put it
than
to this way.
creating just something you have to try and be, because that can be difficult.
Yeah,
But that can also influence where you actually are as a person.
100%. 100%.
So I would say rather work from where you are and develop a character that's maybe a bit different than being
Well,
like.
put it to you this way. If you're in sales and you've got to sell a product and you have got no faith in that product, it makes your job a lot more difficult. But if you're selling a product that you trust and that you know and that you can sell with your eyes closed, makes your job so much easier. You don't even become a salesman. You're more of an order taker. That's the same thing with wrestling. Don't believe your gimmick. How do you expect to get other people to believe your gimmick? Your time frame of selling that product when you're walking out that curtain to climbing in the ring is what, like 30, 40 seconds? You need to get that across to people to either hate you or love you. So how do you do it if you don't believe it? You couldn't do that within a week. How are you going to do that in 30, 40 seconds? Can never happen. That's why if you look at all the successful gimmicks, guys that have been, you don't even have to be a good wrestler. If your gimmick is strong, you can get away with certain shortcomings in the ring.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing, because what we're talking about actually now is how you're trying to encourage South African wrestlers to be authentic and not copying overseas stars. I think when I grew up, we had like once every couple of months some wrestling overseas stuff on the TV. And as I grew older, it started becoming more frequent on TV. And I told you earlier this week when you drove from training, I said, I think the problem is younger people, or people coming into the industry now, they look at the product they see now, and it's more about what moves, how do they do the moves, how big can it be, than the storytelling. And I told you my 2 favorite matches of all time, Stone Cold versus Bret Hart, the one that actually made Stone Cold, if you ask me.
Yeah, they did make him.
And then in a more recent era was the Dustin Rhodes versus Cody at AEW, which was like most amazing storytelling. And I don't really see, and that wasn't storytelling in the 10 weeks leading up to the fight. That was storytelling just inside the ring. There wasn't like the Dusty and Cody thing. They couldn't build story really outside of just because they weren't a company yet.
Yeah.
But what they did in that match, and I think that storytelling, if I look at AWA, what the guys need to do at the moment, because people come to shows to see the story. And yeah, we can do stuff on social media, but that's always a bit of hit and miss. But how hard they must work to tell the story inside the ring. And I was Tuesday evening, like just sitting there listening to you, but you talked about storytelling and how you can do stuff. Maybe for the viewers or listeners, your take on storytelling, how does that work in the ring?
Well, wrestling has changed a lot. It's evolved a lot. And the problem, wrestling is at a point now where you got to get shock value out. I mean, if you watch like AEW, there's blood, there's
Crazy sport.
these crazy spots. If you take the blood and the crazy spots away, what are you left with? That's the question that you need to ask.
Not very much.
And if you get to an answer, it's either going to swing not very much, or no, but there's still good wrestling and storytelling. Now, WWE, for all its shortcomings and for what it's worth, has always been drama-driven, story-driven. Guys coming to people's houses and knocking the doors down, cars exploding, people getting shot. There's always a story. There's always drama. And you got to look at what is keeping people coming back. Now, with us, we are unfortunately not privileged enough to have enough shows where we can carry a story across every week or every 2 weeks or whatever the case is. So people come once every 3 months, watch our shows, and then they got to kind of pick up from where we left off 3 months back, which is very difficult. But they invested, and they come and they watch, and they know, okay, Johnny's the good guy and he's wrestling Mike Zander, who's this arrogant young guy, and there's a story there. There's a story with Romeo Valentino and JSK, and there's a story there with whoever. There's always something happening with the guys, and we need to focus on that, because if they come to just watch moves, it's like, what's the point? Then, if we're going to do one spot and then you got to up it for the next show, then you got up for where's it going to end? I mean, are we going to jump off the gallery down 2 flights of stairs? No, it's pointless.
Give it 5 ideas.
That's not what wrestling is about. And it's not about hitting each other with a keyboard and all this crap. It's you could do a hardcore match. Hardcore matches have a place. You could do a hardcore match, and you could literally just have 2 guys or 4 guys or 6 guys in the ring beating each other senseless with whatever. But then afterwards, what then? You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
Or you can have a hardcore match where there's 2 guys in the ring, or 4 or 5 guys in the ring, whatever, and there's 3 or 4 weapons, and there's a story involved there somewhere, somehow. There's something happening that's keeping the people interested, and they're not just sitting there okay, great, he's hit that guy now 20 times. The biggest thing that I try and get across is that you have to tell a story. You tell a story in everything that you do. It's not just in the match. It's just, you got to tell a story. Size comparisons, gender differences, race differences. There's so much that you can work with that why are we reverting? It's lazy. It's lazy heat. It's why are we reverting to these kind of matches when there's so much that can be told? There's so much that can be told. You just need to stop and think. And that is where I think for South African wrestling, the whole creative essence of wrestling is flown out the window over the past couple of years, because they're trying to get kids in and they're trying to do these high-flying moves, or they're trying to do these big moves, and they suplexing people on floors and tables. And I've done all of that crap. I've done through tables. I've done down flights of stairs. There's nothing. I've done stuff that no one else has done. I've taken suplexes in the middle of stop streets. I've done, there's so much stupid stuff that I've done where I look back, I'm like, why?
I think it's all about the payoff and what is needed for a story. It sounds a lot like we're just bashing the overseas product, but
no, it's not. That is very relatable.
My problem is, at a point of there was a certain point of time in the beginning of AEW that I was like, this is good. Because
it was a point.
It was when they started. I was also so good. Yeah. It was like,
there was a couple of good matches.
There was some brilliant matches, and then old Dean Ambrose came over, and every match there's blood, and every match and I always think and say that the conclusion or the spots, if it's a dangerous spot, a big spot, or blood, it needs to be to explain the story. Like there's matches in WWE, like Cody versus Drew, where it was like, this is such a heated hatred that when one of them led, I was like, it makes sense. Then sometimes you get stuff and you're like, just why? And I think that's what's important. And what I notice, Cape Town is, and people watching the podcast in Cape Town, if you don't come to every show, you're really missing out, because you're missing out on amazing stories. And the whole thing that went down between Romeo and JSK, that build up and everything. I don't know what's that move called that Romeo broke the.
It was a
But I
suplex
was
DDT, brainbuster. We'll call it a brainbuster.
I was like, that guy's dead. That was so believable, and that was like, okay, now we know there's a line.
Yeah.
And that happened over, I think, almost a year at
Yeah.
shows that it started. And thinking back now, what I thought of JSK when he came out of Romeo, I'm like, okay, that dude I fought that day actually fitted in here. And it's like, I think it's much harder for South African wrestling companies, promotions, what you want to call it, to bring out a story that is like the crowd is invested in it, even though it's not shoved into their faces.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I think that's very important. Storytelling in our wrestling. Yeah, I wish I had the opportunity to record your talk about storytelling on Tuesday evening. I was like just sitting there, wow. I've learned so much. But
no, I wouldn't have done it if it was recorded.
Yeah, I know, but I would have just loved to watch it again. That was really so good. But let's move on before you start.
I do talk too much at training, I know.
No, not really. I just know when you hear Sean's voice coming, everybody starts working harder.
The cockroaches scatter.
So we've got training, we've got storytelling, but then there's another thing that's like, for me, I want to say something like what I've learned through the years as a fan and stuff is how sacred the locker room is normally for wrestling. What would you say, and it's maybe a loaded question, but maybe you can give us some input. How does the locker room culture look in South African wrestling? And then within that, how do you manage ego and competition in a small scene like we have in South Africa?
It's very easy. Well, might not be easy somewhere else, but if you see our locker, I mean, you've been there now. Take this week, argument's sake. These two, Tuesday and Thursday, you were there. That is about 40% of the guys. And that's a lot of guys that was at training. So if you get all of them together, that's a lot of people. Our roster is overpacked. But yet, if you take the most senior guy and you go take the most newest guy, what do you notice? There's humility, there's respect, there's love, there's camaraderie, there's family. When I started, the locker room was tough. It was old school. It was tough. There was no one patting you on the back. There was no one saying, oh, are you okay? Or, do you need help with anything? There was nothing like that. And I'm very, very glad. And I'm very, I look back and I know how blessed I was to have come through that locker room with guys that big who commanded respect, not only in the ring, but in real life. They were hard people. They were tough guys. They were guys that was bulletproof. And I mean that. I mean, the guys they were cops. They were tugboat drivers. They were big, 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 big men. Coming through, I was a 70-kilogram little pretty boy in that kind of locker room. I was the sore thumb sticking out. And it was tough. It was probably one of the hardest things I've done. None of them really liked me. It is what it is.
You were Italian, that's why.
No, none of them liked me. I mean, it's a fact. Some of the senior guys there knew me from outside of the wrestling and they didn't like me. And it was a case of they were trying to get me out. And I stuck it through. But saying that, when I took over the locker room, I knew that if we were ever going to grow and keep moving forward, we needed to change the mindset in the locker room. we needed to change the culture of our locker room. And by doing that, a lot of the guys were not happy, but that all sifted out. It kind of took care of itself over time. Myself and Sean have spent a lot of time getting the locker room right. That's the engine room. If you don't have a strong locker room, you may as well close your doors. And I got rid of a lot of guys that just didn't fit, guys that thought they were better than what they really were, guys that just had bad attitudes, arrogance, just bad apples in a sense of not being bad people, not being bad as in like crime or anything like that. It's just, they didn't fit the culture of our locker room. And getting rid of it, getting rid of them, getting rid of that bad essence, still doing it now today. I'm still got my eye on people, and there's things that might not be working. I sit them down, I have a long hard chat, because to me the most important thing, more important than Johnny Palazzio, more important than Sean Kuhn, and that is AWA. AWA has to come first. And what is AWA? That's the locker room. And I got to make sure that we still have issues. There's still a couple of feathers that get brushed the wrong way, and I got to sit the guys down and, hey, listen, let's talk this out. And we sort out our issues. It's become a lot more like a family, because in a family, when you got a problem, you guys talk it out, you scream it out. There's issues that come to the fore, it gets sorted, and everyone goes back to being happy family. And that for me is probably the most important thing, next to getting the basics right in the ring. So it's taken us a long time to get the culture of our locker room sorted. I can't speak on other locker rooms. I've been a part of basically almost every locker room out there in South Africa. I've seen things that I had to really, really, really bite my lip with, bite my tongue and just shut up and remember, this is not my locker room. But I have mentioned it to the promoters. I have sat them down and spoke to them, but you can't talk to everyone about everything. Sometimes you got to just get there, do your thing, and then leave. And
I think what you're saying is very important. I think maybe for people who's watching this podcast and doesn't understand what we're talking about, we're basically talking about AWA, how it's there, because we're not going to we might have opinions, but the only thing we can really reflect on is AWA, not other
100%.
promotions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started when I met you just going to shows, and then I started just trying to come and help setting up the ring and all that stuff. And then one evening I came to training just as a friend, as a fan, as someone who wants to help AWA be AWA.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I told it on the first podcast, but I got home and I told my wife, you must see the type of people, that's the culture, how they act, and setting up the ring. Well, not really setting up, just carrying poles in the morning before a show and waiting for you to arrive 4 hours later. One time, everybody there, it doesn't matter if you're Congo King, Mike Zander, JSK, everybody is for AWA. And everybody brings their part. Now, on my wrestling journey, if I can call that I started, I think it was one of the most intimidating things I've ever done in my life, is going and saying, okay, tonight I'm going to try something. And my experience with everybody there up to now is a love for AWA and a love to bring people into it.
I'm going to stop you there, because you got to remember one thing. And this is the problem that a lot of people don't realize, is that pro wrestling is probably one of the biggest team sports you could ever come across.
Yep.
And if you don't understand that, then you don't understand.
You're not going to understand
the locker room. Our locker room is
just everybody there, from the heavyweight champion to the cruiserweight to the other guy that started. Everybody is like helping, supporting, pushing, but not forcing or asking more than you see someone can give. Now, you said when you started, you told stories at Tuesday about how tough it was for you. And I want to say, for that era, nothing was wrong with it. That was how it was. But what I'm hearing from you is an evolution from improving the business, almost making it more sustainable, really giving the shy guy, the unathletic person opportunity to come and try this if they really want to do that. Some will stay. I think more than some go again. But I really like that. And you said what you said now about it's a sport, it's a team sport. I was a rugby coach for years. I played rugby for years, and that was the best thing for me. The being in the locker room, knowing if someone gets someone in a ruck, the whole team's gonna go for the other guy. And that's really what I experienced behind the scenes there. Listen, if the guys get into the ring and practice, I'm still afraid of some of the stuff that's coming, but we're one. But if I'm across from you in the ring, no, then it's real.
But you got to remember, you hit the nail on the head there, because the locker room that I came up in, there was nothing wrong with it at the time. It was the hardest guys knocking each other the hardest way possible. And it wasn't a case of everyone patting each other on the back. It was, if you can't do this, cheers. And they sifted through weak people, or people that was deemed weak in that locker room, and they kept the real tough, hard hitting crowbars. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was no pulling shots. There was no kayfabing anything. It was legit hard moves. And those guys that were in the locker room earned their place to be in that locker room. And there was egos in that locker room. And it was, I am the champ now. I don't need to do this. I don't need to listen to you. I don't need to help you. I've got to focus on me. And that culture was fine in that kind of locker room. But it wasn't sustainable. It was 100% not sustainable, because that core group of people would eventually call it a day and move on, and whatever the case is. And then who's left? Who's left to carry AAA? Those days, it wasn't about AAA. It was about the individual. And when they moved on, there was no one left. And I say it the whole time. And if you can understand the words that are going to come out of my mouth right now, then you understand what needs to be done. A wrestling federation, promotion, whatever you want to call yourself, is only as strong as its weakest wrestler. And if you understand that, you understand where you need to be. If you don't get it, I've got bad news for you.
I met a guy a couple of years ago. We played for the Stormers, and I kind of like mentored him spiritually for a bit. And being not a Stormers supporter, but a Springbok supporter, that was about the time when Sia became captain of the Springboks coming up. And I was like sitting on the fence, because he looked like a nice guy, but is he captain material? Everybody was asking that at a point. And I asked this guy, tell me a bit about Sia. How is Sia? And he said, Sia is the last one onto the bus. He's the last one off the field, because he's bringing in the last tackling bags, the last balls. He's always last out of the locker to make sure everything is clean. And I was like, that's an example of leadership.
100%.
Because the leadership is not just on the field. And when we got there Tuesday evening, one of the champions were already brooming the dust of the mats that we practice. And that's the culture that's there.
100%.
And you can see that at training. You can see it when they're in the ring together, and you can see it when AWA wrestlers are with the fans. So that's amazing. So yeah, amazing. I don't think we really touched on it. So the last thing about mentorship, culture, is how important is professionalism outside of the ring?
It's extremely important. Remember, if you are wrestling for a company, you are carrying that company's name. Same thing as in life. If you're working for a company, you're carrying that company's name. People that come to our shows need to leave our shows saying, those guys are amazing. Those guys are awesome. They took time out to have a photo with my daughter or my son or whatever the case is. It's extremely important that people understand that, what we do in the ring, it's extravagant, it's outworldly, it's amazing, blah, blah, blah. But after the show, we're still human beings. We're still fathers, sons, daughters, brothers, whatever the case is. We still need to maintain professionalism of being superstars, non-superstars, normal people, nobodies. You get what I'm saying? There's no, you need to maintain professionalism in all facets of life, no matter what it is, not just sport, no matter business. People don't want to be associated with someone that chucks their name away every 2 minutes.
Yep.
No one wants to be associated with someone like that.
I think a word that goes very closely with professionalism for me is discipline.
Yes.
And I think that's something that if you look at any wrestler anywhere, we really made it. It wasn't the discipline drove them to be professional in whatever aspect of wrestling and life that they're doing. Um, and the discipline and professionalism people don't see in the guys that's in the ring is after they've been beat, bruised, they greet you after the show and spend time with you as long as you want. And then after that, there's no special crew coming in to take down the ring, clean the hall. It's those guys who bumped and slapped and bruised himself during the show, cleaning up and packing everything away. I think maybe that's one of the reasons. And I'm going to, in general, say in South Africa, it's more possible to keep guys more grounded because it's not like we arrive and shine.
Yeah, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised.
Okay. But at AWA, you don't arrive and shine and go. You arrive, you
100%.
bruise, you bleed, you sweat.
You got to remember, and this is something that I maintain in my life, not just wrestling, not just spiritual, not just anything. And will always 100,000% outweigh talent. You could be the most, and I've seen it so many times because I've trained everybody. And will always outweigh talent. You could have the world's talent. It means nothing if you don't have the discipline. And that is a fact. And you got to look at a lot of facets in your life. You could be the most talented, whatever. If you don't have the discipline to work at it, to keep it maintained, to look after that talent, it's going to be nothing. It's worthless. And if one of the examples I like to look at is exactly like with bodybuilding and wrestling. If you are extremely talented and you could pull off this 360 flips and all this nonsense, these big moves that you see, but you don't have the discipline. You don't have the discipline to maintain your body. You don't have the discipline to keep working at. I'm still learning. I still climb in the ring and I learn. I think, oh, that works. I'm going to keep that. Or that doesn't really work. I'm going to get rid of that now eventually because my body's changing. It's things that I can do that I can't do and blah, blah, blah. So I'm still learning. I'm still evolving. If you're not evolving, you're dying. So if you don't have a discipline to try and work at your craft every single time, you're going to have a problem. Because the minute you get that attitude of, I've made it, I can promise you one thing, there's 40 guys on your tail that haven't made it, that are coming for whatever spot you think you might have in life. And that is a fact. And they might not be half as talented as what you are. And I tell my kids the same thing. They might be way more disciplined and they will eventually overtake you. Eventually, it's guaranteed. 100% guaranteed. They will overtake you.
Someone said something one day, someone probably famous, like, I might not have the same talent as you, but I'll outwork you every time.
That is my motto in life. And that is what I try and instill in my children and the guys that I train. You need to be the hardest worker in the room. Yeah. Because life at this point has become so saturated. Every walk of life, every job title, everything. Every facet of life has become saturated with people where if you get a gap, you have to grab the gap, that opportunity, and you have to keep working at it.
I think if for personal in my life, I've started moving away from trying to achieve stuff and measuring stuff in my life as did I achieve it. I started moving to a point where I said, did I work hard enough to try and achieve it?
Yeah.
Because a lot of stuff in life, you like go for stuff and then you're like, you don't do it. Then the question you should ask yourself is not, did it make it? You should often ask yourself, did I at least work hard enough, try hard enough to make it? Because I think there's a sense of satisfaction that you can get from something if you've worked your ass off and you didn't achieve X, Y, or Z. But you know you did everything you could. Then there's no regret of like, did I work hard enough? You know, I worked hard enough. And
disappointments are fantastic. Being disappointed is,
depending on how you look and think about it.
If you can use the disappointment to fuel yourself, it's fantastic. It's one of the greatest things you could use to your advantage in achieving whatever goal that you set out for. And everyone's like, oh, but how can that doesn't make no sense. It's like, and once again, I go back to telling my kids and telling the guys that I train, because they're also just like my kids and I love them all. The minute you get disappointed, don't drop your shoulders. Don't look down. Smile. Accept it. Use it. Use it as a kick up the butt. It has to fuel you. And I've been a mentor to a few people that don't get it. And I've expanded my energy and energy around me to try and help these people. And sometimes you just can't help it. You just can't help them because they're always going to just have a defeatist attitude no matter what happens. Life owes me everything. It's unfair. I deserve better. But why is it always me? Those kind of people, you need to just cut out of your life. Because at the end of the day, life doesn't owe you anything. It isn't always just you. It's not always fair. It can't always be fair. And yes, it's disappointing. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to just sit down and cry and stay down? Or are you going to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and re-engage? It's like, put it to you this way. What type of person would you be if you woke up every day achieving your goals without any disappointment? What type of person would you be if you woke up every day and you got everything that you wanted without any disappointment? What type of person would you be? You'd be shallow. You'd be easy to knock over. You'd be a drip. I wouldn't want to be around someone like that. But then again, ask yourself, what type of person would you be if you got knocked down, if you got disappointed, if you got defeated, if you got beat up, if you got hurt, and you got up the next day and you went at it again? It's not to say that it's not going to happen again. Might happen again. Might happen again. It might happen again. But what type of person would you be if you got up each and every single time and kept on fighting? That is someone that I want to be associated with. That is someone that I want my children to be associated with. And that is someone that I want in my locker room. Because that guy or that girl, I think it's easier for women because they are just tough. Women are tough. But that person is someone that I want to be associated with.
I think how people deal with disappointment, setbacks, normally tells a lot about them. And sometimes it's good, but it's looking back at your life and how you grow and stuff. Like I had my best training the one evening and I thought, well, I almost puked. I almost fell over, but I drove away.
You were looking a bit pale.
It was a lot of, but I was driving away there and I was like, that was fun. I really felt I improved to some of the stuff I could do more.
Which one was that? When you did like 5 rolls or the 15 roll?
No, it was the 15 rolls
15
that
rolls.
I got in without.
But then again, perfect example. Yeah. The previous training, you did like 3 or 4 rolls.
3 or 4 and I was like,
and then you were like, oh. And I said to you, brush it off, come back again stronger. And what happened? You came to the next training and you're like, you couldn't stop rolling. I was like, okay, that's enough for tonight. And then you were like, I actually feel good. Yeah. You came to me and you said you actually felt good.
But then I had the opportunity of my 1-year-old Jack Russell helping me tore my meniscus in my knee. And I was like so disappointed because it was the Monday and I was like coming off Tuesday's training and I'm like,
yeah.
Now I'm going to roll. Now I'm going to do the next thing. I could have said snow down in the dumps, but I decided, well, my meniscus is stored and I'm trying to rehab that. I'm just going to work hard in the gym.
Well, there you go.
And now I'm just like even more excited I even just at doing some lockups the other evening, even though my knee was, I could do that with my knee, but I'm like, I'm keeping the fire going. Even though I can't do it exactly the way I want it because I've got the gut. And I think that's what I'm always also seeing from you guys there. It's like, there's guys that are hurt and they come to training. That's the whole deal.
You know what's hilarious is like somebody, I don't know, once again, it could be someone famous, but I've heard this a long time ago. Somebody said, life is fake, wrestling is real. And the funny part is that, art and whatever artistic talents you have always resonates in life. And it's like, you can see the guys that have a hard life. There's a lot of guys that have a hard life, they're biased. And you can see how eager they are to work when they walk in that door. And it's not a case of they have this trouble at home, or, because there's a lot of the guys that talk to me, and I sit down and think, but it's hard. And then they walk in their door and they work their butts off. And you look at it and it's like, this is the type of people you want to be associated with, not someone that gets handed everything. And, everyone's like, oh, so you're all right. Okay, don't worry, everything. And then they come to training and then they go, ugh. You need to have a mentality in life and in wrestling and in bodybuilding and in everything that you do, that if you get knocked down, you got to look at it at somehow in a positive light. Like, how can I use this to benefit me? How can I use this to push me forward, to drive me, to motivate me? How? I've been disappointed so many times. I've been knocked down so many times. If I had to lie down and cry, I've got so many people relying on me that if I wake up in the morning one day and I say, no, screw it, can't today. I can't today. There's no way that I can do it today. If I had to do that, I would be putting 4 or 5 people out in the streets. And that is the difference between being a man and being, let me not be like, chauvinistic or sexist or anything like that. That's the difference between being a winner, someone that people can rely on and look up to, and someone that no one wants to be associated with. Because the minute you just lie down and cry, I don't know, how old are you?
47.
47. I'm 45. I've been around this block a lot of times. And let's call it what it is. Life today, if you lie down and cry about something, people are not going to stop and pick you up. People are going to walk over you because they are getting to where they want to be. People are walking over you to get to where you want to be. You both got a goal. Yeah. If you lie down and cry, they're going to just walk over you to get to where they want to be. That is life. Sad, but true, people. That is life. You need to pick yourself up. You need to just motivate yourself.
I want to kind of counter you with that. I agree. But I also want to say that's where it's important to surround you with people that will pick you up.
The point.
Because you are going to struggle.
100%.
You are going to suffer emotionally. People in the world are struggling with depression. I'm one of them who struggle with depression. But I've surrounded myself with people that when I need to be, let's say, crying,
picked up and
being on the floor, those people will pick me up.
100%.
And that's about getting to a point where you are kind of true to yourself and real and not trying to be with somebody wants you to be.
Yes.
It's not important in your life. You said it's like you're the man. Trying to be careful, I think you know your role. You're in your family, you know what's your role. The other family members knows their role. And if you get that in life where you know your role and you know where someone else can come into your life and play a part, that's when you can deal with other people trying to walk over your dead body. And I think that's really important. You're a hardworking man. You've got a family and stuff. I think a lot of youngsters and people looking at the stars in AWA, I think that guys do that for a living because they're so good. Realistic in South Africa? Easy answer and maybe some more detail.
It's not an easy answer. I know there's people out there that want to join wrestling because they might not have a lot of opportunities when it comes to an income. And, they're like, well, if I can't find a job, I'm going to do wrestling. Newsflash, not even in America is it sustainable. You need to really break through. You need to be signed to one of the big companies. Or as a lot of the people I talk to overseas, you need to be doing shows every single day. Okay. Like every night there needs to be a show. Because these guys get paid peanuts. Yeah. They live in their cars. That's all they do.
Sorry, MJF said he did 4 shows a week. And he was like, before he went to AEW, he already had like 500 matches plus.
Yeah.
And I think he signed when he was 21 or 22.
Crazy.
It's crazy, there.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
Yeah. So like in South Africa, currently, let's
be positive currently.
It's not only about being positive, it's about what we've been working on in AWA. So at this point in time, right now, no, it is not sustainable, no matter what anybody tells you, to be a professional wrestler in South Africa. That guy knew. That guy just knew.
That guy knew we were recording a podcast.
He didn't have to rev 4 times. So currently, no, it's not sustainable in South Africa. I myself can bear witness to the fact that at one point in my career, it was extremely sustainable. That is because we had a TV deal. I quit my job, blah, 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 blah. We are working extremely hard to get to a point where we can tell our guys, hey, listen, this is what you'd be earning monthly, blah, 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 blah. But at this current point in time, it can't happen. There's no way that you could be a pro wrestler and just be a professional wrestler. In fact, sometimes I actually sit and think, like in South Africa, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people, can we really call ourselves professional wrestlers? The word professional would mean and indicate that this is all we do for a living. It's our profession, what we do to generate an income. So I don't think that we are professional wrestlers in South Africa. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack off for that. But if you want to call it what it is, I would say we're all generally just workers. We're entertainers at some point, but we're not professional with it. There's no way that this can be a profession now, currently. Jump a little bit into the future, it's possible. But it's got to be done the right way. It's got to be sustainable, and it's got to feed itself. So it's not just a case of paying everyone X amount. The company's got to generate whatever it generates. It's got to keep feeding the machine. So yes, I think AWA is in a very, very, very blessed position. I mean, we've definitely 100% got the biggest locker room in South Africa, probably Africa. I mean, you've seen the guys, and each one of those guys have got so much potential. And it's not just the fact that they walked in their door and it was like, oh, I can do a backflip or a front flip, or I'm strong, or whatever the case is. It's that our training isn't overnight training. It's not just something that, oh, you've been training for 3 months. Okay, call yourself a professional wrestler. You can go into social media now and call yourself a professional wrestler. Hi, I'm Joe and I'm a pro wrestler in South Africa. Really? How long have you been wrestling? 3 months. Yeah,
it's
buddy.
It's like studying to be a doctor and calling yourself a doctor.
That's how it works. I'm sorry. I don't think that's how it works.
I think the difficult thing is just the wording. Like in Afrikaans, we can talk about rofstoei.
I like that.
I've
always loved rofstoei.
And that, but the pro thing is like,
when everyone asks me, I'm like, wrestle. I just wrestle.
Yeah, but then they ask like, what sort?
Yeah.
So the rofstoei is like still something that in South Africa works. I think the problem is I don't really like the term also sports entertainer. I'm a wrestling sports entertainer because it takes away from the athleticism and the...
Does it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. As for me, okay, let me just still say that as looking from the outside, I think that the wrestlers in the ring are definitely entertainers, but they are more. They are stuntmen. They are athletes.
Well, then what would Tom Cruise be?
No, he's an actor.
But he does stunts. He does all his own stunts.
Yeah, but he's an actor who does his stunts.
Okay. So then...
but do you understand? I feel in a certain way...
Yeah, you feel that it takes away from...
diminishing.
Yeah, no, I get...
I don't know what other English word it says. Like I was speaking to someone...
The word rof is, you know, for what it's worth, it's the most amazing word when describing wrestling in South Africa.
If someone watches it, that's the weekend at Riversdale.
Yeah.
At AWA will be there
next week Friday.
Yeah, coming Friday. This Friday coming.
Yeah, well, this coming Friday. Yeah,
this coming Friday, 8 p.m. And I watched the advertisement.
What it means when this podcast goes out.
Yeah. It will go out hopefully by Monday. On the posters, rofstoei. And I was like, yes.
Yes, sir.
Because even in Afrikaans where people understand rofstoei.
Yeah. That is WWE, AEW, and the stuff you see on TV is pro wrestling because they are professional. That's all they do for a living. That is their only means of income.
So it's good to hear that there's plans with bringing guys to a spot where they hopefully can do this more sustainable and professionally. I like the fact that you're talking about having it be sustainable. So it's not like it's 2 or 3 years and then, it's not working now. You've got to go back to whatever job you had and almost have to start over again in the career. Because I think that's the big challenge. Because there's a lot of young guys there. And I think it's so responsible of you to talk about that it's got to be sustainable. They've got to start building their future now. And if wrestling is going to be it, it's hopefully going to be the rest of their life.
No, you got to be realistic. I mean, I don't know what other federations in South Africa feed their trainees in their brains, but I see some of these guys jump on social media and I see them call themselves professional wrestling superstar X, Y, and Z. Hi, I'm professional wrestling superstar Jack. And I sit there, I'm like, you don't know Jack. This is really, really, really tough. I can't watch this. I'm sorry. I can't be a part of that. So it's difficult. And I've said it before. I mean, if you think to yourself, okay, how long have I been doing this? Look at cricket, look at soccer, look at rugby, look at tennis, look at any sport out there where they call themselves professionals. How long have those guys been training? How long have those guys been doing matches and whatever to get to a point where they can say they are professional? I can promise you it was not 3 months. Some is 3 years, some is 13 years. It's crazy. You get to a point where it's like, this is my profession. I'm stuck on this now. Let's just move on.
But it's important. I think maybe a wrestling entertainer will be better.
Nah, I'm a rolstoer, bro. That's what it is.
I like it. You kind of talked about this now, but if Johnny Palazzio can look into a bucket of water or close his eyes in dreams. You've been in wrestling for over 20 years now, if I'm correct. If we can fast forward, let's say 5 to 10 years from today, if you can dream it and you can see what you hope can be the future.
Oh, this is a loaded question. This is a loaded question.
It's a dream. It's not necessary that it all has to happen, but what would be a dream for you for wrestling in South Africa?
Okay, I'm going to just be very general with this. And I'm going to...
The question is general, South African wrestling.
Yeah. I would like to see a board of standards get implemented, because there used to be a board of standards where you would have a wrestling card to say that you are fit enough, skilled enough to climb in the ring. And then through that, you would be able to...
Like in America, in certain states, you still need that.
Yes.
You have to have your wrestling
100%. So I would like to see that first.
Like a sanctioning body almost, like say...
Like a governing body.
This guy...
say you are ready and you are not ready. I would like to see that, because at the end of the day, that would immediately cut out, and this is going to be a big number, 60% of the guys that's currently working.
It can even, I just want to jump in, it can even be just like an accountability board, that if you at AWA wants to start using a guy, you have to submit a form and say that Picky can do this, this, and this, meet all the requirements.
No, it can't be something like that. It's got to be a governing body where they are like, we need to see these guys in action up front. And then from there, we'll be like, okay, yes, he can. No, he can't. So you would get a guy in, he would do all these basics in front of you, then you would give him a mic and he'd let him cut a promo or whatever the case is. And judging by that, it's like getting a driver's license. You would need to get your wrestling license, and then from there you'd be able to do shows. That would eliminate a lot of issues.
Do you like it safer? Because you'll have more safe workers.
It'll make it a lot safer, but it'll also raise the standard of wrestling in South Africa by 4 million %. And saying like what I'm saying now is like 60% of the guys out there currently in South Africa would have to reevaluate their goals. So I would love to see something like that. I would love to have a governing body, and I would like talking general now again, I'd like a federation. I'd like an African federation, not just Cape Town or Joburg, whatever. I would like a African federation, federation that uses every single promotion. I know there is a promotion currently trying to do that, but they are based in a province. So I would like a promotion that does shows all across Africa that would use guys via this governing body. So that is something that I would dream of having. And just to throw that out there, I probably wouldn't get a wrestling license because I probably couldn't do half the stuff that is needed. My body just wouldn't allow it. So, but even so, like that governing body would say, yes, you are able to train someone, or no, you are not skilled enough to train someone. And that would once again eliminate all these little federations popping up overnight and saying, we are a wrestling school. You're a wrestling school? Yeah. Yes, we are. You can't even wrestle. But that's my point. So, like, also seeing into the future, I would like to be able to help my guys as much as I could financially with more shows, and just a bigger platform for them to be exposed to. So that would probably be the dream.
I like it. I think some people might listen to what we're talking about and feel like we're throwing punches into the dark at other groups and stuff. But I think what I hope people can hear is that Johnny Palazzio, AWA, BaardBek Wrestling Pod, BaardBek Palazzio Wrestling Pod, we want to see wrestling rofstoei in South Africa be good.
No, we want to see it grow in the right direction.
Yes, yeah. That's
to a point where
that's one phase of it, yeah.
Yeah.
But we want to see it grow. We want to see it be good. We want to see it be safe. We want to
someone trying to make a buck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I keep saying that over and over. What I've learned and what I think is the most important thing for every wrestler is safety, to be a safe worker as far as possible. Things
100%.
happen. And I will keep training for 2 or 3 years until I feel and I am told, listen, you are a safe worker now. One of the other wrestlers at AWA wanted me to give him a clothesline. You know who that wrestler probably is. I said, no, whoa. I first need to know how to do it safe before I will do it.
100%.
And that's one thing I try and explain to people when I talk about wrestling, and you've got most of the whole thing, oh, but it's fake and it's real. Life is fake. But people do not understand how small details and how millimeter to a left or an inch can be so devastating on somebody's body.
It was like, clothesline is the easiest move to do. And I just sit there and I'm like, my gosh, have you seen what your clothesline looks like?
Well, I thought the roll would be easy.
Exactly.
Until you've rolled over your head from not already being on the ground. The first thing you think is, I'm going to break my neck.
100%.
How am I going to get over there?
It's all unnatural. It's not natural.
Nothing is natural in this. So I think that's the thing we are hoping for and praying for and thinking for South African wrestling. That's why I think the governing body type thing is very interesting.
There used to be one.
Yeah, if you can maybe get some of the old guard to, not the old guard, like,
well, like America used to have the territories.
Yeah.
You know, there used to be a guy in charge of each territory. And, you know, you phone up the one guy, say, listen, can I use this boy or can I use that guy? He says, yeah, sure. Or no. And that's where this whole thing about tryouts used to come out. The guys would go and try out to be part of a federation. And we've used the word a few times. You know, we've tried to do tryouts and we've had some very successful tryouts. We've got guys that are currently doing shows that have come through our tryouts. But at the end of the day, you know, you try and create hype to try and attract people to come. Is what it is.
So AWA is at Riversdale show go for some rosti Friday, Friday after today. It's 14th today, so that will be the 21st or 22nd.
I think so, yeah.
8 o'clock, go. Probably there'll be more stuff on the AWA socials about that sometime.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be streaming that though.
Yeah, no, I don't think. But if you're in the Riversdale area,
yeah. For shame and seeing it all come through.
yeah.
No, I'm only joking. That's the villain in me. I love that side of the world.
I think it's more shame on us that's going through that side
of the world. Let me be honest with you. It's so quiet. It's so clean. It's
the
peaceful.
shame is just the drive and the coming back. It's going to be but it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to my first road trip with the guys.
Yes, sir.
Maybe we'll do some TikTok lives or something.
We have to. We've got to document the whole thing.
Yeah, so we will document a bit of it. Just when's the next AWA show?
24th of March.
24th of March, Paris Civic Centre.
Paris Civic Centre.
Is it Revolution, or is it a new name, or you keep
it? It's the same form.
I think it's Revolution, the first one, or what?
Ignition.
Same thing, just different words. So make sure to be there. I'm working on something. I'm going to try and get some ringside seats. So if you are out there and you're watching the podcast or the shorts, when we reach 500 TikTok and 100 subscribers on YouTube. YouTube is the hardest.
Okay.
If we reach 500 and 100, we will be doing a live draw for 2 ringside tickets. Sean, I haven't told you yet, but I want to buy 2 ringside tickets.
The way I'm feeling is that I'm going to need those tickets.
So follow. It's not just that you need to follow to be on the list to win the ringside tickets. And maybe we'll have one of my introduction BaardBek Palazzio wrestling pod capsules and maybe some extra stuff for you. Subscribe, whatever you have to do on what channel you're doing. And most importantly, share it. Thank you to everyone who watched.
Yeah, for sure.
First shorts. And I was amazed at this TikTok thing that it actually works. We had so much views there.
You need to start doing your dances again. You got to bring your dancing back, your shorts. Yeah, I think it's good. I think it'll grow the channel.
But I'll only do it if you do it with me.
Nah, I'm not a dancer, brother.
Hey, I see how you move your hips in the ring. And then I'm excited to say that we have almost fully convinced the legend himself.
Don't say anything. Don't even say anything yet. We will drop that bombshell at the right time. Because if you start building up to it now, it's not going to be as impactful.
So on that almost bombshell, I think we say goodbye.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Let's hope all the cameras recorded this time. You don't know.
I hope you press record.
This is the second time we're doing this recording, because last time we had a glitch. So thank you for joining in. Like, follow, subscribe, share. See you on the next one. Cheers.